Hey everyone, this is Corine La Font, your favorite radio host, your only radio host, and favorite girl, of course, broadcasting to you from the lovely island of Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean on Between the Lines. And I have with me today a handsome man, Leroy Slanzi. You know, I always say I only have good looking people on my show. It just goes. All right. And I want to welcome everyone who is watching, listening with us live. And for those who will be watching the replay, I welcome you and I thank you for taking the time to listening and watching to this episode. And most importantly, engaging with us because we love when you ask us questions. Feel free to ask. You're getting your questions answered live. Or if you're watching the replay, put it in the comments and we are going to engage with you and answer you. And feel free to share this episode that we're about to talk about. And so we're talking today with Leroy on Beyond Credentials and the Letters Behind Your Name, a favorite topic of mine. Behind credentials and the letters behind your name. And before I officially welcome Leroy, let me tell you a bit about him. I'm grabbing his bio here. So Leroy Slanzi, just grabbed and got out of my hand. Leroy Slanzi is currently the principal of the Lower Nicola Indian Band School and a renowned educator, author, and speaker with over 25 years of experience in transformative school leadership. And that's kind of like a twist here on the topic. I'm going to get into that with Leroy in a little bit. Leroy, official welcome to Between the Lines.
Thank you so much for having me, Corine. I'm excited about this interview.
Yes, me too. Leroy, you're in Canada in the cold.
Yes, yes, I am. Yes, I am. Although today's not too bad. It's only -4 out, so it's a little warmer.
Yeah, say that again. -4. Is that what you just
-4. It's a little balmy today. It's short weather.
And as a teacher, an educator, what does -4 mean to somebody who is in the Caribbean and we talk about 38, 40 degrees?
So 0 degrees is freezing. We're 4 degrees below freezing.
Oh, so you used the word freezing there a while ago. Below freezing.
Below freezing. Yes, ma'am. Below freezing.
Thank you for that explanation. Now you see why he's an educator, people. He's able to explain that so simply. In other words, let me translate in Caribbean language. Don't go to Canada. It's cold. Canada is not where you want to be.
No, Canada wants to come down to Trinidad and Tobago. That's where we want.
Yes. And we pronounce it actually Tobago. You need to practice that
Tobago,
before
Tobago. Got it.
Or else we're not letting you in, Leroy.
I will have it down then. Trust me. I will practice.
Okay, just practice. As an educator, you need to listen to a former educator. It's Tobago. Leroy, you're in school. What did you call it now? Let me look back at your bio. There was a term there. Transformative school leadership. Okay, now let me preface what I'm about to ask you. Sure. Transformative school leadership. And schools normally encourage you to get all those letters behind your name and credentials. Isn't that what we do? Isn't that what they do? You know, so that people can boast they have so many this and so many that, and they have the full alphabet behind them. Okay, the full alphabet. And I am a bit confused that as an educator, you're teaching this, you're encouraging this, but yet we're talking about beyond the credentials and the letters behind your name. Explain that to me.
Absolutely. So if you look over my shoulder there, I have my credentials on the wall. And I'm very proud of my credentials. I worked very hard to get my credentials. However, when you are in a leadership role, your credentials don't mean you're going to be a great leader. It just means that you had the credentials to get your foot in the door, to apply for the job. And it's what you do in the job that makes you a leader, not what you read in a textbook, because human nature is not something, I mean, you can teach, you can go into psychology, sociology, and you can learn about human behavior, but it doesn't really pinpoint people's personal trauma, people's personal lives. And that trauma and those personalities and character traits that have been developed by being raised in a different ethnic home or cultural home, they matter in a school, and they matter as a leader, because you have to take all of that into consideration. And I, in terms of that transformative leadership, I truly believe, a hierarchy is necessary just in terms of job descriptions and making sure people are doing the role they're assigned to. But a school should run more like a utopia where there is no hierarchy. Everybody just serves each other and serves the clientele that are there. They know their role, they know their responsibilities, and they're willing to help out. And that's what I mean by beyond credentials and the letters behind your name.
Now, here's what I'm hearing from that schools don't teach leadership. And no matter what school you go to, what university you go to, even if you do a leadership course, and there are several out there, Leroy, it doesn't make you a leader. So how can we transform what we are doing in the schools, or let's say the education system, because it's not just high schools or colleges and universities. How can we hone the skills that are innate in people? Because I do believe everybody is born to be a leader, right? Because, there's always this talk as someone, what did they say? Are you born to be a leader?
Natural. Natural leader.
Yeah. I believe everybody's born to be a leader. Everybody has leadership qualities in them. It's just that opportunities don't present, the support system isn't there, because persons could dash your leadership from birth. Parents can start pouring negative things into you that will take you off your path of leadership. Church can take you off. Any other agency or institution can take you off. And you believe that this is where your path is, as opposed to following, I want to use your spiritual, genuine, purpose-led, intentional, God-given path. You have been taken off because why? These physical beings are in your presence, and because we have been acclimatized and programmed to believe in physical, the seen, that we think that these are the people who, of course, they're older, they're wiser, they have been around longer than me. They may know better, or they do know better. Why would they not pour good things into me? Why would they not have my best interest at heart? And I'm not trying to blame anybody here. I'm just saying what is actually true. We lived it. We know students who live it. We know people in our lives who've lived it. And we have been taken off our path. And I, as an educator, because I consider myself an educator, even this podcast is an educative platform. And you, Leroy, as an educator in schools, touching the lives of so many young minds. How can the audience, how can people listening, watching, change that and know that within themselves that they are leaders, and to distance, to block out the type of things that are coming towards them? How can we make that distinction? How can we know?
Well, you got to pay attention, and the people around us have to pay attention. I'll tell a story of early in my career. I'm going to go back even further. As a child, I was the kid in the cul-de-sac who arranged, all the games, because somebody had to take the leadership role, or we would have just been running around, looking up at the sky, chasing clouds. So, from an early age, I naturally just dove into just kind of organizing my friends, making sure we played hide and seek or whatever we were doing. Like, I always had a plan. And so I went through my whole life, even through high school, when I was on sports teams and whatnot. I might not have been the best player, but I was the guy behind the scenes, making sure we all knew what we were doing and pumping everybody up and making sure we were all working hard and doing that. And, early on in my career, I went to a school and I applied for a leadership role. I was a department head, actually. And I'll never forget this. I went into a school that was quite toxic, and I didn't know when I was offered. Yeah, I didn't know. I left a wonderful school, a beautiful school. Teachers worked hard together. We were all natural leaders. We all just pulled our weight. And I unfortunately, I was in a position where I was replacing somebody who was on sick leave. So every year when this person came back, I was out of a job. So the third time around, I was like, okay, I need to go find a new job. And so I took this new job at a new school and went to the interview. And when I was there, they said, hey, would you like to be the department head of the student services department? Because I have a master's in special ed, the letters behind my name. I said, absolutely. Got my foot in the door. And I went into this meeting, and there was counselors and 3 counselors, another special ed teacher, a librarian, basically student services type people. And they were so rude, and they were so disrespectful, and they were mean to me. And I was young. I was probably, I think, 29 years old at the time, 30 years old maybe. And I couldn't figure it out. I'm like, I just left a place where people had respect for me. They valued how eager I was. They valued how much I cared about kids. But these guys were just, I'd be talking in the meeting, and all of a sudden the pencil would start tapping. Oh, yeah. And I thought, what's going on here? And I found out. Yeah, I found out later on that, I walked into a very toxic environment where the teachers union and the school board were in this big clash, and no one took on the department head role because they were trying to make a point. And so I walked in and took it without knowing. And so this is where the principal of the school should have informed me what I was. He basically made me walk into a hornet's nest, which was fine. Okay. So I worked through it. I formed relationships and all that. It wasn't until about 2 years later where I was looking at a vice principal position and was encouraged to apply by the superintendent at the time. And I had one of the counselors come to me, and I'll never forget this. And he said, I understand you're going to apply for the vice principal job. And I said, yeah, I think I'm going to do that. And he looked at me dead in the face. He goes, you're not a leader. You will never be a leader. So don't bother. And to this day, it sits in the pit of my stomach, because this man, I watched him with kids. He was pretty good with kids, but because I ignored their hostile wanting to fight with the school district and just did my job and led and was there for kids, he was angry. And I thought, I know I'm not allowed to swear, but I'm going to. I said, you son of a bitch. I said, I took it. I got that job, and I moved on, and I became the vice principal and did great things at an amazing school with amazing staff. And I think the biggest thing, to answer your question, is that we need to realize that we have egos. We need to realize that there's leaders amongst us, and those leaders in our school, whether or not they're an education assistant, a custodian, a secretary, a classroom teacher, we need to recognize leadership skills, a bus driver, if they have leadership skills, and we need to enhance them and get on them, and nurture them so they become the leaders that they can be. And I think that's the biggest thing that we have to do. That's how we change it. And we have to stop looking at the letters behind our name, and we have to, get behind people who have those skills, rather than tell them because you're angry that they'll never be a leader.
You ever heard the word karma?
I have. I believe in it.
Me too. A friend of mine the other day said to me, karma have some big balls. Big balls.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's amazing, Leroy, that when people feel and assume that they have authority and power because of the letters behind their name, it's something distracting you. Is that your pet?
No, it's my son. Can you
tell him come?
Okay, Cruz, this is live. So you might as well come say hi.
Come.
Yeah. This is my son. I told him I was live streaming.
Hi, sweetie. How are you?
Good, how are you?
I am good. Why are you distracting your father on his show?
I was trying to be quiet. I'm just getting some food.
Yeah, see that live button? Remember I told you it was live? Okay,
that's all right, my darling.
We'll get food after, okay? Now the whole world's met my son.
That's right. And he's cute. He's cute.
He's adorable at times, yes.
That's all right. No, but a lot of people who have these letters behind their name and assume authority and power don't think that one day that circle is going to come around, and the person that they are abusing, because that's abuse, Leroy, that's abuse. I don't care what people call it, control, manipulation, but it's abuse. It's abuse. And that same person that you are abusing may be the same person that could save your life one day. It could be the bus driver you talk to like that. It could be the janitor you talk to like that, the secretary. It doesn't matter. You never treat anybody like that. And you know what I say? Because I've met people like that, Leroy.
Mm-hmm.
If they think that they are leaders, they are not, because a proper, genuine, true leader never behaves like that.
No.
They don't lead. That is not the way to lead. But they don't do the necessary introspection and reflection and look within themselves. When I engage with people, I'm always assessing. The mind has an interesting way of working, that at the end of the day, you know, when things kind of slow down, you tend to replay. I know it doesn't happen to me alone. You tend to replay your conversations.
Yeah.
You tend to go over everything. And you must be able to look within yourself to say, you know, I could have done that differently. I could have said that differently. I need to make amends for that, you know, something. But people have to have that within themselves, which is the mark of a leader, to be able to look within him or herself and know, this wasn't right. I apologize. Stop. Take a 2-step back or a 10-step back and assess. You know, and we are influencing people out here. Even on this podcast, like I mentioned, this is an educative, empowering podcast. And I want to be able to reach and touch people with what I say. And I don't hold back, because I believe in being genuine. I believe in being me, just as how I want my guests to be themselves when they come on my show. You know, so Leroy, the letters, why do you think? Because they're just letters from the alphabet.
Yeah.
Just letters. Why do you think that these people transform? Let's use your word. How do they transform from not having the letters before?
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as they get the letters behind their name, they suddenly transform into somebody or something else.
Yeah.
What is happening there?
Well, I think, you know, a lot of times people don't transform. They are who they are before they get the letters, right? And
Agreed.
You know, but in the same token, I know I've met over the years many people who, once they've got their letters, the power came, and that's that ego-driven need to be an authoritarian, or for people to know how great you are. And, you know, and I think you nailed it when we talk about leading through emotional intelligence. You have to be able to self-reflect. I've met so many leaders who say they self-reflect, who say they're personally aware and they're socially aware of their surroundings. But at the end of the day, they never think they're wrong. And they never, you know, look at their mistakes and move on. And I think that's the biggest thing. The more you fall down as a leader and you get to the end of the day, you should be going, oh crap, I did that. Okay, this is how I'm going to do it differently tomorrow. Yeah. Or, you know, I said something and I saw the look in that one teacher's eyes, and I need to go back and follow up to see why that look in her eyes was there. And, you know, and I think that's what happens is that you get into these positions, and as you move up the school from a vice principal to principal, you run into directors of instructions and superintendents. And what gets even harder is as you move up the chain and you're trying to implement change in schools, and we have to. Our schools right now, I also wrote a book called Emotional Schools, The Looming Mental Health Crisis and a Pathway Through It. And I wrote it because our schools are on the verge of a mental health crisis, because kids are struggling, right? And so are the teachers. Teacher burnout is huge. There's, you know, and at the end of the day, you know, I run into so many leaders who, and no offense to the superintendents who may be listening, because I don't want to paint all of them with the same brush, because, you know, it's a small percentage. But they won't listen to the people in the trenches who are in there every day, because they're the superintendent or they're the director of instruction, and they're supposed to be the expert. And, you know, here I am as a principal, and I'm supposed to be, you know, the smartest guy in the room. I should be able to walk into a classroom and teach circles around everyone. I laugh every day because I go into classrooms and I'm like, oh my God, I wish I could teach that good, you know, and because what they do is amazing. And I acknowledge that, and I can see that, you know. On the same side, I have worked for superintendents, and I've worked for assistant superintendents and director of instructions who are amazing people, who are just, you tell them an idea and they're like, let me get out of your way. You know, I'm currently working for someone like that, where he doesn't, get right out of the way when I come with an idea. First thing he says is provide evidence. You tell me how
Yeah.
this is going to work. I will support you. But if it fails, we're gonna pull it back. And I can live with that, right? Because that's how it should be. And so, for every superintendent or principal that's has an ego where the power matters, there's two that do not. And the emotional intelligence piece of being a leader, where you can self-reflect, where you can check your ego at the door, and you can feel the kindness in your own heart come out and be supportive, so you can serve and you can form those relationships, allows you to be organized and instructional and get teachers to go in the right direction, right? And it's hard to get teachers or kids to go in the right direction through an authority-based approach, because they'll do it begrudgingly because they're afraid, but you want people to run through a brick wall for you. Yeah.
That's fear-based. Maya Angelou says, when people show you who they are, believe them. Don't even try to ask them twice. From the time they show you who they are, that's it. I believe in actions more than words. People could say and mouth a lot of things, Leroy. I don't believe it. Your actions tell me who you are. And it has to be consistent actions. If you do it one time, I'm not going to just believe you. It has to be for the long haul, because people could mask, people can pretend for many years. I've met those type of people, but you have to watch it and see consistency. And you talk about serving, that servant leadership. People really don't understand that we are here on this earth to serve, but they're here to serve themselves. Don't get it twisted. They're here to serve themselves, and for me, my type of leadership, or one type of trait in terms of my leadership, I like to see people win. I like to push people forward. You go, I'll support you. I'll be in the back. I don't need to be in the front. I will give you all the support you need. What you need, I'll make you look good, and I want to push you. And I will just sit back and just watch you glow. That is exciting for me. And if you want to give me credit or say, hey, Corine, come up here, if it wasn't for you, whatever, I'll be like, sure, great, I'll do that. But I don't need to be in the front. I always tell people, I don't need to be in the front. And I recognize skills. I don't know everything. I still am not good at maths. I don't want to be good at maths. Communication is my thing. I want to stay that way. Let the people who know maths go up in the front. If I know, Leroy, you're very skilled in sports, hey, I'm going to shove you up there on the field. I am not, I'll be the cheerleader. I look pretty on the field and do the pom-pom dance. That's what I will do.
Yeah.
But and that's how I lead. I let the people who have the strengths go forward, and you just tell me what you need, and I'll be there to support you. But there are some people who need to be in the front all the time. Me, I. It's all about me. And you mentioned the ego. We need to check that ego, not even at the door, in ourselves,
So you can grow. Yeah, so you can grow. It's interesting because I think, over the years with all the people I met, and you see people who have certain emotions they attach to, like jealousy, or and like you mentioned, if you're a sports guy, Leroy, I'm going to push you there so you can create an amazing sports culture. But do you know how many people will stop that sports guy who's amazing at what he does because they're jealous of what it's going to turn into? Or
that's insecurity, Leroy.
It is insecurity. And, and I'm of the mindset like you are. And this comes from, I'm going to use some American politics here, but there was a president called Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and he had a brain trust, and he surrounded himself by the smartest people in every field he could. And this guy got out of the way, and he let these people shine, and he pulled the United States out of the Great Depression. And I live by that. Like, at the school I'm at now, I have teachers who can do amazing things in amazing areas, and I just push them, because at the end of the day, if even if I do have an ego, and we all do, they make me look like a superstar principal, and I just have to get out of the way. That's right. Like the things that they do. Like I had this teacher.
K-Panol, Leroy. K-Panol. I want to recognize someone who is watching us. Bert Welch, thank you so much for watching us. I don't know if Leroy knows you, but I don't know you. But I'm so happy that you're watching and supporting us. You give us a like and thumbs up. I think he's on Facebook. Let me just, cool. He's on Facebook. watching us live on Facebook. So Bert Welch, thank you so much for supporting us. Leroy, this has been fabulous. You know, are there any tips in the final few minutes that you can share with persons in education, in leadership? Are there any tips that you can share for persons who may even want to move up the ladder in education? Or it doesn't even matter. It doesn't have to be education. It could be in any industry. And they're kind of scared to do that because of what people are saying or what they may have poured into them or said to them to hold them back, like your experience. What sort of tips would you like to share?
Yeah, number one is you need to be self-aware. You need to understand your ego, and you need to understand your emotional dramas. If you're a jealous person, if you're somebody who feels guilt or inflicts guilt, if you're somebody who's, you've got to be aware of your emotional strengths and weaknesses, your ego. And you need to make sure that whatever you're doing, you're in it for the right reasons. If you're there for a paycheck and you're trying to lead an organization, a school, doesn't matter who you work for, and you're trying to lead them to success and prosperity, you better make sure that you are there for the right reasons. And if you're not, you're going to do a lot of damage to a lot of people. But if you're cool with that, okay. But, for me, be self-aware. And be socially aware. Be aware of those people around you. Know what they're feeling. Know their traumas. Know their history. Know their culture. Know their strengths and weaknesses, because they will bring prosperity. They really will.
Yeah, awesome. Where is your son? Bring your son back.
Oh, I think he's upstairs packing. I got to drive him back to college.
Oh, yeah. But you have to make sure and get him some food before he goes.
Yes,
make sure and feed your son.
I think he ate half the fridge already, so.
That's what young boys do.
Yeah.
That's what young boys do. I have 2 young men, so I am quite familiar with that type of arrangement. Yeah. Leroy, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for sharing your story, for being vulnerable, for sharing your tip, for giving hope to persons who want to probably enter a particular career, a field, leadership, management. And I know people run from it because of the responsibility, and they run from it because they know who they need to report to, and they know that they're in a toxic environment, but they're thinking, oh, the money might be good, but is it worth it? All these other questions are coming at them. But have hope, have encouragement. I think I see somebody has a comment here. I don't want to leave them out. Oh, Thomas, let me just shout him out here. Thomas Santos, thank you so much. He says, thank you for sharing. Thank you for watching us on LinkedIn, I think it is. Yes, thank you so much. Leroy, again, any final words before we go?
No, I think we summed it up.
Yeah,
we summed it up. Be self-aware and be mindful of your ego.
Thank you so much, Leroy, for being on Between the Lines.
Thanks, Corine.